I hate Apple. I do. They're a slimy, misleading, lying, scummy company that has the best marketing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I commend them for that. But I hate them. Well, why do I hate them? What makes Apple so bad? They seem to have pretty decent products, and that's the thing. At least one of them. They have decent products, and in the end, that's all they are. Mediocre, decent, okay, but they sell these products for a fortune. And the people who buy them automatically disregard specs and research because they must have the best technology out there. They spend $3 grand on it, it has to be the best. But that's not how it works, and I really despise that Apple promotes this. I like being around people who like to think, like to use their heads to solve problems, or just contemplate things openly with me. And I love people who look at things with an objective mindset. But it seems every time I talk to someone who's in love with Apple and their products, I feel as though I'm talking with a console fanboy. All fanboys are practically the same, but why are there so many for Apple? This company freely shows its specs. They openly tell everyone what's inside their computers and phones, and then they lie to people and tell them that it's new age technology when it's like 7-year-old hardware. That in itself is fine, and on this aspect, I look down on the consumers. Apple knows that its consumers won't do any research. They're the kinds of people who just take promises from faceless corporations. And yeah, that's a healthy lifestyle choice, by the way. I've talked about the fanboys a long while ago, so I'm not going to delve much into this. But to anyone out there who loves Apple as a company, I gotta ask, what did it for you? I had an iPhone for 2 years and I just felt limited. I felt as though they thought I was a child giving me a phone so weak and selling it for so much, and I just don't see the appeal to that. And it's the phones they sell most of all. I mean, if you buy their computers, I don't know how to save you, but their phones? Yes, they're easy to use, and yeah, they're user-friendly, but they're weak. They slow down really fast over time, and they're made of really cheap material, but for some reason, Apple makes a ton of money off those worthless little things. Now, if you like their phones, that's fine. They are made easy to use, and most people don't like complicated, and that's understandable. They just want to buy a phone to have a phone, and probably play some little App Store games, and I can respect that. It's Apple's computers that really bother me. As a guy who builds computers, I know the worth of these machines, and I can see someone selling a $500 PC for $600 or maybe $700 as a profit. But selling a computer that isn't even worth $500 for $3,000? Are you nuts? Especially when you're limited on what you can do. First of all, gaming is almost a no-go. There's a short list of games that you can actually play in the grand scheme of gaming, but then again, who cares? You didn't buy it for gaming. You bought it for work or school, right? That's justified, right? Well, not really. When it comes down to it, there are only a few things that a Mac-based computer can do that a Windows-based computer can't. But there are thousands of things that a Windows-based computer can do that a Mac can't. For example, if my computer ever has an issue, an error code normally jumps up, or at least an error log, or a message pops up so I can solve the issue myself. However, when a Mac has an issue, it generates an error code based on the time and date. It doesn't tell you how to fix it. It doesn't tell you what to look up, and unless you really know what you're doing, you're gonna have to take that puppy in and get it fixed. Because of its closed architecture, the Mac operating system has been child-proofed, meaning you don't get many options to fix it. I won't go into too many of these, but here's just a short list of some of the things that a Windows PC can do that a Mac PC can't. Macs don't let you cut a file and paste it to another folder. Macs don't tell you what operating system you have. Macs don't play video games. And here's the thing. All this would be totally fine. All this wouldn't be such a big deal, and nobody would have a reason to complain about it if Apple didn't ask so much for this product. This product that offers very little in comparison to other computers on the market that are much cheaper. Now I'm going to say some good things and some bad things about Apple. Regarding their Mac computers, their computers are very slim. Yes, they sacrifice some USBs and other ports and a CD drive, but to cram that hardware into such a small space is not an easy task. Though I have noticed some heat issues, but I won't mark them down too badly, being as how most laptops have heating issues. Also, I want to say their Unix system and their operating system is very well made. It's a lot harder for Macs to get viruses, and this is mostly because of that childproof thing I was talking about earlier. You are limited on what you can do, so it is harder, but Macs running a Unix system definitely makes it harder to get a virus. And as for their operating system, it's really nice. To be honest, if these buttons weren't facing the wrong way, I would probably have a Hackintosh. which if you really like Macs for the operating system alone, I would totally recommend building a PC and using the Mac OS for it. As for their phones, I really don't like them. They're weak, they're made of cheap material, and they're simple. But if you're looking for simple and easy to use, that's totally fine. I would suggest buying an older iPhone to save some money, but the unfortunate part is that Apple slows down their old phones to make their new ones seem much faster. But I can't blame Apple for that specifically because a lot of companies do this. And lastly is the way they sell their accessories. Apple tries really hard to make sure that if you need a charger, new headphones, a mouse, or keyboard, you have to buy it from them. They really want your money and they don't hide it at all. People joke a lot about them coming out with new chargers all the time, and it's not like it's a conundrum. When it comes to other platforms, a lot of chargers are universal. Of course HTC or LG or Samsung or Nokia could make their own chargers, but they share one because they want it to be convenient to the consumer. They don't want it to be a hassle trying to find a charger, and every time someone at my work needs a charger, all they have to do is ask. Problem is, when someone asks for an iPhone charger, they have to let them know that it's an iPhone. And then they have to tell them which version of iPhone because it changed. Then you're for some reason looked down upon if you have an iPhone older than the 5 because nobody has that charger anymore, and screw you for having an iPhone that long. But it doesn't matter in the long run, right? Apple got their money from us, so we should be happy. Are you starting to understand why I dislike them so much? To be honest here, Apple is really smart. They've been in this game for a long time and they know what to say to take money from us. They know that if they make something and label it the best product ever, people will buy it, and it cracks me up. I really enjoy going to the online Apple store and looking up their new products. I honestly get a good laugh out of it because I know someone saw it and bought it. Seriously, let's take a look super quick. Look at this slogan that they have for the new MacBook. Light years ahead. This is genius. It's almost so misleading, but they put the period right there. The MacBook very well could be super light, but years ahead of what? Your MacBook from a few years ago? Definitely not going to be years ahead of anything right now, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's take a look at this MacBook. Okay, so it's super thin and boasts a 10-hour battery. That's pretty impressive. Ooh, a 1440 display at 16:10 aspect ratio. That's nice, that's nice. But what kind of power does this magnificent machine have, huh? 1.3 gigahertz. 1.3 gigahertz. Now, for those of you who don't know, most cell phones will run faster than that. My phone has two processors in it, one running at 1.88 gigahertz and one running at 1.44. Both of those are faster than this computer's processor. My phone was $200 at full price. I got it on a plan, so it was cheaper. But what about this PC? It says right here, starting at $1,299. Well, some might say, well, your phone's a phone. This Mac can do more than your phone. And yeah, that's true. So let's see what I can build on PC Part Picker at a similar speed of this MacBook. How much do you guys think it's going to cost? $503. Now, this is a quick build that I made, and I figured I would have similar specs. But in all honesty, this one is actually superior to the Mac. And I'll explain how. So the processor is an AMD quad-core running at 1.3 GHz. The motherboard is a cheap MSI. The RAM is similar spec 8GB DDR3 at 1866. I grabbed an SSD with 250 GB of storage just like the MacBook has, a really decent NZXT case, a 430 watt power supply, and since Apple has some sort of super retina display, I decided to be really generous and give you a 4K monitor, and a regular mouse and keyboard. Now this build is almost the exact same. Some of the parts are even superior to the Mac, and I could give you a CD drive which the MacBook doesn't even have. So $500 or $1,299. Do you understand why this is ridiculous? But I'm not done yet. There's one more thing I have to show you. These slogans crack me up and I must share them all. You already saw this one. Check this one out. MacBook Pro. More power behind every pixel. What does that even mean? If I had to guess, they're probably talking about their Retina display, which is just a higher resolution than their last models. Literally nothing else changed but a higher resolution. Regardless, this means nothing, but to anyone who wouldn't know, this is a huge statement. I swear to God, if they sold toasters, they'd slogan it, more crunch behind every slice. How? How could I not use someone else's toaster to get the same toast experience, Apple? MacBook Air. All the power you want, all day long. I'll give them this one. A 10-hour battery is impressive, but then again, the battery doesn't really have much to power. Really, when 1.3 gigahertz is all you got, you could power that on a cow for 4.5 hours. iMac. Retina, now in colossal and ginormous. Why is this funny, you ask? Well, check this out. If you look up the word colossal, the definition is extremely large. If you look up ginormous, the definition is extremely large. So you have a choice here between extremely large and extremely large. What the hell? Here's one for their iPads. Super computer, now in 2 sizes. Do you see how misleading this is? They aren't actually lying, but they may as well be telling people that this is better than your PC, and they believe it. iPad Air 2, light, heavyweight. This is somehow not a contradiction. iPad Mini 4, mighty, small. This is getting really irritating. iPhone SE, big step for small. And they cut themselves off. They'll probably get back to that one, but I'm done. In all, I will say that some of Apple's products are decent, but not worth the price. This is kind of shameful, but they're so confident about it, and really, that's all it takes for them. They just have to make an okay product and tell everyone with incredible confidence that it's the best product that they'll ever get, and it works. Can't say I blame them for taking advantage like that, and it's not their fault, really. The consumers let them get away with it, and I just can't understand why they chose Apple. Of all the companies, they went with the one that really slaps them across the face and takes their hard-earned money as it does it. Maybe that in a way is why, but I guess I'll never know. I don't want to see Apple killed off, but I would like to see them crash. Apple has great potential, and if they were to fall to their knees and their consumers stop buying their products for a while, Apple would start having to compete again. And they would actually have to try, and I would love to see what they would do. What kind of technology they would actually work hard on, and finally see some true innovation that they always talk about. But unfortunately, I don't think this is going to happen. The Apple we see is the Apple we get, and at this point, I doubt we'll ever really see a good product from them that's actually worth my attention for the price. But who knows? They've surprised me in the past. I mean, remember that time when they made that iPhone that could bend in your pocket? Such innovation, so much hard work, and the toughest materials. Right, Apple?